Live from Fort Bragg's backyard, this is the show that put the 110 Nation on the map. There is only one nation, the 110 Nation, and you're listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show. Covering each and every sport across the board. There is no sport too large or too little. It's time to talk the talk. Here we go. Here's the man, the founder, and your host, Mr. C.J. Sports.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. C.J. Sports. You can follow me at Mr. C.J. Sports. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Check us out on Facebook, my personal fan page, Mr. C.J. Sports, the 110 Nation fan page, 110 Nation Sports. Also, check out our site, www.the110nationsports.com for all the latest going on here at the 110 Nation. Glad to be here on this Monday. Had an interesting weekend. I'll talk a little bit about that here in just a little bit. Normally we got Izzo joining us at 8:30 on Monday nights, but they got a bad storm going through where they're at, so he will be on Wednesday night at 8:30 versus coming on tonight. Power in and out. I know Miss Brandy was having same issues on the other side of town here. So we're all kind of affected by this storm, even though some of us are miles and miles apart. The storm is affecting all of us. So we'll have Izzo join us Wednesday night, 8:30, and I'll do my solo night tonight. So want to make sure that I thank Carolina Sports Plus. You guys can find them on Facebook, Carolina Sports Plus. And I also want to thank More to Music. You can go to their site, more2music.com, or you can go to our site, www.the110nationsports.com. On the main page, all you do is go at the very bottom, click the banner. It will take you to their location. Or on any page that, on any of our articles, it will actually show up on the right-hand side. Just click on the banner. It'll take you where you need to go. Help support those that support us. Without these great marketing partners, we wouldn't be able to do what we do or grow the way we grow. So I want to make sure that I thank them and show our continuous support. I've got a lot of things to jump into. Before we jump into this, I got an opportunity this weekend to go back to Hocking Hills. For those that have been listening to the show, matter of fact, right the week right before we started doing the show, getting everything back going again here for the 110 Nation Sports Show, I got to spend a week out at Hocking Hills, out in the cabin, and I got to do a lot of things. Unfortunately, some things were still not reopened due to this virus. And so we got an opportunity to go back again this weekend, just adults, and do some of the things and do some of the trails that, one, that were open, but two, the youngins wouldn't have been able to do anyway. Got an opportunity to do Old Man's Cave, Cedar Falls, Ash Cave, Whispering Cave, got to see the Devil's Bathtub, a whole bunch of different stuff. We end up going to Old Man's Cave, and we end up hiking what ended up being the at least the harder of the two trails on the way to Cedar Falls. And it was a lot of up and down rocks and climbing, and it was definitely physical for two people that hike almost every day and had been in the gym and everything else. I tell you what, we both were very sore on Saturday, and I think we're still feeling some of it on Sunday. And then on the way back, kind of find out there was an easier side of it, and it was kind of just smooth sailing on the way back. But got an opportunity to do that. Got to hang out on the lake on a pontoon boat. Pontoon boat, I think that's how you pronounce it. And it was a great experience, something I had never got to do before. And got to see some things of the southern Ohio area that I have not ever got to experience before. We did see, all the years that I traveled. It's crazy because when I was in the military, I constantly drove. Come to find out, I didn't know that, this is what all this was. But I was driving right through all this, going through Athens and Nelsonville and traveling up 33 through Ohio. Is the whole Hocking Hills, Athens County, Hocking County area. And so when I was in the military, what I would do was I would get out of formation about 5, 6 o'clock, whenever they rounded up the formation for the weekend. Me and a guy named Timothy Wallace, who lived in the Columbus area, and another guy named Charles Harris, who lived in Indiana. We would jump in the vehicles, either my vehicle or we rented a vehicle sometimes there for a while. Timothy and myself both had a vehicle, and we would drive. And we, depending on the situation, if it was just going straight to Ohio, I would probably get home. If I was just going straight to my home, the Dayton area, I would probably get home about 3 o'clock in the morning. There was no bypasses. A lot of these little cities like Athens and Nelsonville and all that area, you had to travel through, and so you were doing 25s and 35s and Pomeroy, Ohio, and all this other stuff. Now, 33, they have a bypass, and so back in the day, you had to speed to get home in 9-10 hours. Now you could do the speed limit and get back and forth a little over 8 hours. So it's extreme difference at this point. But we would get in, like I said, if I traveled straight to the Dayton area at 3 o'clock in the morning, even if I just had the guy with me, Timothy, that would go to Columbus, still about the same. Maybe a little bit later, getting off the beaten path a little bit. If I had Charles from Indiana, then you're talking about it's like an hour and a half, 2 hour drive to Indiana where he stayed, then another hour and a half, 2 hours back. So next thing you know, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. We would usually none of us would go to sleep that night. So, by the time the morning time when everybody's getting up, we would go do everything we was going to do, friends, family, hang out, whatever the case may be, till wee hours of the night on Saturday night. We would, whatever nap we got, we would get Saturday night. Sunday, I would start loading up about noonish in the Dayton area, so I could go pick up Wallace around between 2 and 4, varying. And so we can get back sometime between midnight and 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, we would spend a good 20 to 24 hours driving, and we wouldn't even be home that long. And so it's crazy to be driving through and seeing all that. And there was a Motoplex that's been down there. And I told this Randy last time we was there, and I said something about him this time. All the times I've been by, I've never seen anything going on in this dirt track. Well, wouldn't you know, this Sunday they had everything going. They had a crowd out there. Because one of the things that we're going to look into and hopefully make our way down there and check out some good racing. I know my cooler girl, she sent me a schedule today of what they got going on at Killcare this weekend. So Sunday's a possibility we might be out of the track and see some good racing. So I kind of got that out in the air. But anyway, great weekend, great times, kind of recovering, trying to recover somewhat. Got back to work and long hectic day. Supposed to go to the gym this afternoon. I've been trying to dig deep into getting things done on the side. Got an article done. Did my NFL 2020 NFL preview. The Baltimore Ravens just got it published right before the show. So you guys make sure you jump over and check that out. I'm not so friendly when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm sorry, but the whole run first, throw second, you got to depend on your legs because your arms are really not that good quarterback. I know a lot of people are any so-called experts, but I side on the side of history. What's happened with Colin Kaepernick? What's happened with Cam Newton? What's happened with Michael Vick, RG3? RG3, the backup for Lamar Jackson, and was injured. Cam Newton barely got league minimum coming off injury. Colin Kaepernick got exposed, became out of the 35 eligible quarterbacks, he was ranked somewhere about 33 and a half out of 35 quarterbacks, and Michael Vick never won a Super Bowl. And that's really all you need to know about the history and these type of quarterbacks. And so unless Lamar Jackson learned how to throw the ball really good over the offseason, 14-2 last year, and the one and done against Tennessee is about as good as it's going to get. Even though they did get J.K. Dobbins out of Ohio State, did beef up the defense, added a receiver from Texas. There's a lot of pieces that they added and some moves they made, but as long as your quarterback is Lamar Jackson and RG3, you're kind of plateaued out. We got more details and everything else. All you got to do is go to the site, www.110nationsports.com. Check out the article. Let me know your thoughts. Hit us up on Facebook. Like us on Facebook. Help us continue to grow as we continue growing in our syndication across all these different platforms. And I know at this point we got a good 10, 12 different venues that you can catch our shows. So we're continuing to do what we can to grow, and make sure you guys check out what we got going on the site and help support us and continue to grow. One of the things that I wanted to jump into tonight, and I kind of got some pushback on it, and I'm not understanding the pushback. I can understand if a player I really don't understand, because when we talk about the national anthem, and there was many different ways we've seen teams and organizations in sports handle how they want to go about this whole national anthem and everything else. I've seen anywhere so far this year from the Cleveland Indians, which I could go with and deal with, and have respect for them, kind of putting a hand on each other's shoulder, showing unity. Okay, no disrespect, and you showed you support the injustice going on and everything else. Okay, I have seen where the Washington Nationals and the Yankees, I won't say it was the Nationals and the Yankees, they all kneeled in unity before the national anthem, but then they all stood for the national anthem. Okay, that was one of the things I threw out there when we talked about the NFL. Why can't everybody stand for the national anthem? All the teams, say it's the Cowboys and the Redskins, or wow, that was a bad example. The Redskins and the Giants. Why can't the entire roster, to include coaching staff, stand side by side, in locked arms or not, side by side, clear down their sideline, a whole 100 yards, spread out. Everybody stand for the national anthem, and then once it's over, why can't everybody just take a knee? Or everybody march in unity to the hashtag marks on their side of the field, Giants on the other side, and all take a knee in unity. Like I said, even to include Fox would not air this. They wouldn't be the station that says, we're not going to air this and catch scrutiny for it. It just wouldn't happen. So you're going to get your point across, and you're going to show respect for the military and this great nation, and show that you're not going to tolerate the injustice going on with a few bad cops. I've seen the San Francisco Giants, and this is one of them I want to talk about, all the players taking a knee during the national anthem except for one player. I've seen the basketball, the women's WNBA decide they're just going to walk off the court during the national anthem, which I found that to be very disrespectful. There's different things that I've seen already at the beginning of this 2020 sports season. Oddly enough, here we are. Oddly enough, here in the late July, that we're just getting into all these seasons. But what started in a movement that originally was supposed to be a good movement, it was supposed to promote and talk about injustice and talk about equality and all this other stuff. Idea of Black Lives Matter was a great thing. It was originally a great thought of a great way to show awareness. Unfortunately, quickly it turned into a movement of rioting, looting, stealing, killing, and ultimately is the 2020 version of the KKK. So unfortunately, in wanting to dismantle family and everything else, negative things about the nuclear family. So what originally was supposed to be a good movement quickly went south and turned into basically another hate group. And so you got some players that don't want to be a part of that or be attached to a movement or a hate group. Just like you got the same thing when it comes to nobody wants to be part and attached to the KKK. So I can understand players having this battle within themselves to showing and being part of a movement for a hate group. But more specifically, a lot of these players that are not wanting to take a knee don't want to disrespect the military. Don't want to disrespect the men and women that have served. And like I've told many people, I serve to give these people that right. I understand that that's what ultimately I did. Doesn't mean that it's not disrespectful, which I don't understand the whole process. You're taking a knee because of injustice and quality, and basically, ultimately, you were disrespected. And so to show your dissatisfaction on this, you're going to disrespect a whole other group of people, which that kind of just, that's very contradictive of within itself. You disrespect another group of people because your group that you're affiliated or part of is being disrespected. I don't get the logic of thinking here. But San Francisco Giants pitcher Sam Coonrod, he took it to a whole nother level. And this is where, when I had the comments come in and people saying things on my post, I was kind of caught off guard, because a lot of people don't want to be affiliated with a hate group. A lot of people don't want to be disrespectful for the men and women who give and sacrifice everything. But then also, the main reason that this pitcher did not take a knee was because he's a Christian. He believes that he can't kneel before anything besides God. Written right here in Exodus 20, verse 4, part of the Ten Commandments. I mean, that's mad respect, to put God before anything and everything. Most players don't do this. Most players, Tim Tebow is like the only player I can think of off the top of my head that was very open about his religion, that put God before everything. Remember, once upon a time, the league banned him from having Bible verses in his paint stuff underneath his eyes. which just blows my mind that we're at a time and day, not the word I want to use. We've come to a day that basketball players are allowed to put messages on the back of their jerseys. Football players are going to be allowed to have different things written on them as well to show the injustice. But the NFL has made sure that they didn't allow anything to show God, would not allow players to wear cleats that represented for breast cancer awareness outside of the small time period that they're allowed to, or any other basically awareness or anything else that they want to show support of. Now, they're allowed to be all in on the Black Lives Matter movement, but any other movements, they're not allowed to partake in. They had to be in uniform. They had to wear certain things and not allowed to wear others, which I've not to this point understood, to include making sure that there was not Bible verses written anywhere on Tim Tebow. So you have no problem showing support for a group that, even though the original idea of this group was a good thought, it was meant to bring America together and show injustice, but it's turned into ultimately a hate group. You're allowed to show your support for that, but not show your support for God. Where have we gone in our time? But I got different comments. I got some of it was not too pleasant, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, once I cut the BS and eat it, coward. Another one is this and other things bother me as much as basically since I have a bunch of they use people of color. Basically, because I have many black friends, saying this doesn't match because I talk about I hashtag respect, I hashtag God first, and I hashtag my hero. Because we don't have a lot of people today that is in the spotlight that is willing to show that they believe, that they're not willing to put God first. They're not willing to be outside of their comfort zone. It's easy to go to church and say you're a Christian and say you're a person of God and say, these things, but it's a different thing when you actually got to do these things. You actually got to stand and be the only person and two teams that is standing for God. So when it comes to all this, ultimately there's multiple reasons why, to include the fact that I served in the military myself, that I would never take a knee during the national anthem. One of them would be because I don't take a knee. I grew up going to a Baptist church with my mom, and then I grew up every other weekend going to a Catholic church. And I never understood the Catholic church. They kneel down to whatever's images up front. Then they're constantly on the little pew things, taking a knee, and everything else, when the Bible directly tells you that God is a jealous God and doesn't want you doing these things. I never once partaked in that because I just didn't feel that was right. And it's not something I don't think I necessarily ever would have thought of this way. And pitcher from San Francisco kind of shined a light on that whole perspective of it. Me, it was more of, I'm not going to disrespect my brothers and sisters that sacrificed all, and the family that lost and sacrificed all, and for all those that have helped build this great nation. But you know, that kind of puts another spin on why this is not the way it needs to be done. Like I said, there's many ways of doing it. There's many ways of showing walking off on the basketball court, basically turn your back to the national anthem, turn your back basically to all of those that sacrificed all. That's not a way. That's not a way to make your point. Not a way to show unity and showing you've felt that your cause has been disrespected by disrespecting another large group that is probably bigger than any race in this nation. Taking a knee, like I said, there's many ways. I've not understood why there's not been thought of better ways of doing this, and I've gotten to see this year other ways to do it, other ways to not disrespect the military. Now, not even to disrespect God. As we roll into basketball season, the NBA season, we're going to see what the NBA players decide to do. We're going to follow that up with the NFL. Let's see how the NFL players take this and do this. I just have this feeling that they're all going to fail miserably. I just have this feeling we're going to see ultimate disrespect for all those that have served, and those that, you know, they ultimately serve and praise God in silence. But anyway, Major League Baseball, we got some games suspended today as we got about 14 Marlin players and coaching staff people that have come up positive for COVID-19. So this has definitely put a hamper into not only the Major League Baseball, but this is going to really throw a twist into the rest of the sports and how this is going to affect the rest of the season, the rest of the other seasons, sports seasons, and how this is going to either scare everybody off. As I got basketball on and they're doing their exhibition games, so I know the NBA's continued on playing. I've not heard any other changes of anything, but I know that this has caused the games to be suspended or postponed, and this is really kind of threw a wrench into the MLB's plans, and we'll see how that postponed. The Yankees in Philadelphia, the Chicago White Sox, and Cleveland and Baltimore and Miami all have been suspended. We're going to continue to watch that and see how that affects the rest of the sports, and whether or not we go ahead and they decide not to have a season, or if they're going to reevaluate their plans. And so it's going to be not damper, not hamper. Hamper. Low. Like I said, for those that are tuning in about the 8:30 time, usually we have Izzo in the studio. He has bad storms. He contacted me at least an hour ago, a couple hours ago at this point, to let me know that they had bad storms. He was actually stuck at work and was not going to be able to join us tonight, and that he will be joining us at 8:30 on Wednesday night to be a part of the Wednesday show to get us caught up with all the latest going on in the in YouTube. There you go, NHL. You guys can like us on Facebook. Give us a like at the 110 Nation Sports. Also follow us on Twitter. The 110, the 110 Nation. Check us out on check out our website www.the110nationsports.com for all the latest. Gotta make sure that I thank Carolina Sports Plus and More to Music for their support. Without these great marketing partners, we wouldn't be able to do what we do or grow the way we grow without these great marketing partners. Make sure you guys check them out. You guys can find them you can find Carolina Sports Plus on Facebook. You can find More to Music at more2music.com. Book your DJ today on a $300 plan for wedding if you get married. You can use that anytime later this year or even next year. So make sure you guys check out more2music.com. Did do a piece on the site, www.the110nationsports.com, talking about Chase Young. Yes, the phenomenal defensive player out of the Ohio State. He did sign his rookie contract with, and this will never get old. I am glad that there is an organization out there that, well, there's more than just a organization. We can talk about the Jets and the Bengals and this whole group of organizations that is more of a dumpster fire than the Cleveland Browns. But the Washington football team, you have no idea how hard it is for me when I writing my pieces when I'm talking about the Washington football team. How bad I don't want to keep saying the Washington football team. You know, when I write the other teams, I'll sit there after I say the full name the first time. I usually, after that point, kind of bury it up and you say Washington, or we're talking about Cleveland. I've got Cleveland, and I might later on the Browns, but not the Washington football team. Every time that I talk about the Washington football team, I got to say it by their 2020 name, the Washington football team, because that is about the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard, that you could not come together and find a name for your football team, and so you call yourself football team. And I saw this perfect meme the other day or yesterday or today probably, talking about people upset because they have a plain helmet. I think they're going to have a plain helmet with a number on or something. And all upset, and it talks about Browns fans, and you see this Browns fan looking with the plain helmet on, like, on the ground. I don't care that it's plain. It's never bothered me. I have never thought of, it's one of the things I've never thought about. It has been brought up a time or two in an article or debate or something, but outside of that, I've never really thought of what would it be like to have something on my helmet, or this, that. Yeah, that's just the way it's always been. I've never thought about it otherwise. But when I'm sitting there writing about the Washington football team, that's how I word it. I mean, with the agreement between the Washington football team and Chase Young, later on, the number 2 overall pick signed a 4-year rookie deal with the Washington football team. I was going to put even in parentheses, yes, I will say the Washington football team every single time, but I didn't. But anyway, Chase Young gets signed a 4-year, $34.56 million contract, 22.6 of that upfront signing bonus. He is the highest drafted player to get signed at this point, as Burrows and the Bengals are yet to come to agreement. So our number 2 overall pick, our former Ohio State defensive player, has been signed with the Washington football team. And looking forward to reuniting him with Haskins, the quarterback, will be taking over duties, starting out there. Put those 2 Ohio State players together and see what they could do out there in Washington. I've seen basically their uniforms, so they're going to keep the same color schemes. I just think they're going to say Washington on the front of the jersey, and I think they're going to have their number in the yellow or whatever on their red color helmets. I think that's what we're looking at here. Which I simple is sometimes good, and I have no issue with their jersey. I have no issue with their helmets. Like, it looks classic. It looks old school. It looks good. I just don't know if I can get past the fact that you had all this time and you've thrown out all these ideas, and yet you couldn't decide on the name. I mean, ultimately what it broke down to was you were worried about offending someone else in this world that everybody gets offended by everything. And I'm surprised that somebody didn't get offended by them being called a football team. I mean, come on, it's Washington. Are they really classified as a football team? Let's be honest now. But we're in a day and era that now, especially when FedEx talk about pulling money out and all these pulling their sponsorship out, and all these other companies talking about not selling the jerseys and everything else. Now you got to tiptoe around the feelings of everybody when they made you change a name that a Native American is what came up with the name and the logo for your team, and most Native Americans, almost all of them, had no problem with you using it. It was kind of an honor for them. But you had a bunch of holier-than-thou, do-right people out there that think they know better than everybody, force you to play your hand and change your name, and then you decide you couldn't decide on it. And oddly enough, the guy that owned like 40-something trademark rights was offering to, hey, look, you can have it free, just donate to a cause, a whatever Native American cause. I'm going to give it to you free, just donate, to a cause. And yet you still couldn't. You were more focused on the sex scandal and drugs and everything else you had going on, and decided you were just going to try to, I think it was more trying to get the focus off that garbage too. But you kind of feel bad. You feel bad for Haskins. He was getting an opportunity to take over, which I think was a mistake for Haskins to only play one season to be out. I think it's bad for any quarterback to play one season and be out. Honestly, I think it's bad for any player, period, but more specifically quarterbacks. Just because you had one good season, especially college football, that doesn't necessarily translate to a great season or a good NFL career. Burrows is another one. I mean, let's be honest. You didn't get to play Ohio State because Ohio State got crapped on bad calls against Clemson, who should have been your opponent versus Clemson in the national title game. So you played the lesser of the two teams because of the horrific calls in the Clemson game, and you play a traditional SEC schedule. You play maybe 2 or 3 tough games, if you even play that. Alabama usually slides by with one tough game. Clemson plays nobody this year. Like they beyond have a ridiculously stupid easy schedule. Even worse than last year, and they fell short. This year, I don't think they play anybody ranked, period. And then they play that garbage ACC. I understand that their conference. It's still garbage, though. And so you have someone like Burrows who didn't play teams they should have played in the national title game. They didn't really have that many opponents, and you kind of cruised against teams that are give-me games. And so where you had a decent college career or a good college year, you didn't necessarily learn everything you need to learn. You never had to really come from behind. You never really was put in a position where we got to see how you handle pressure and everything else. I feel the same way about Haskins. Even though Ohio State's schedule's usually harder, usually we play 4 to 6, somewhere in that ballpark figure, ranked teams, because Michigan's usually ranked, Michigan State's usually ranked, Wisconsin's usually ranked, Nebraska's usually ranked. I don't know if I said Penn State, but Penn State. It's hit and miss on Nebraska. It's hit and miss on Indiana. It's hit and miss on Northwestern. But usually there's 3 or 4 really solid top 20 teams, and usually have 1 or 2 other teams that are at least in the top 25. And usually actually the 3 or 4, usually the top 15. So even though Ohio State's got a tougher schedule than anybody in the SEC, I'm still not a fan of, especially the quarterback position, you being a one and done. Because those 4, 5, 6 gimme games when you play Toledo, when you play Miami University of Ohio, you play these nobodies, you're basically out there scrimmaging. You're not learning anything, not really. And so then you have these high expectations. I mean, let's be honest. What happened to Troy Smith? What happened to Terrell Pryor? What happened to Cordell Jones? What happened to J.T. Barrett? Gone. And Barrett and Cordell Jones were on national title games. They're national title teams. Troy Smith, if I'm not mistaken, was on that 2002 Miami, that Miami run. If not, it was Terrell Pryor. Either way, you had quarterbacks that were part of programs that were part of national titles, so they were able to beat the competition they had at the level that they played at. That's why the whole new records out of college to any weight. I don't care that Melvin Gordon ran for 300-400 yards. You ran against a college team. You know, you got your top programs like Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan State out of the Big Ten, but once those 5-star positions run out, or that's where all the 5 stars go, then once those run out, you got people that trickle into other teams, and then you've got other programs that they don't got so many 5-star spots, and not too many 5 stars want to go to these teams that are not going to be in the national spotlight. You have a chance to go play Ohio State, or you got a chance to go play Maryland, where are you going to play in the Big Ten? You're going to play Ohio State. So when you have these rushing records and these single rushing records, they mean nothing to me. I don't care that Melvin Gordon ran up and down the field on a college team. He ain't holding no rushing records in the NFL. He ain't ran for no 400 yards against the Dallas Cowboys or hell, even against the Cleveland Browns. So, I mean, that doesn't mean Billy squat to me. So, but Chase Young, there's a lot of hope. You know, he kind of got himself a little bit of trouble with eligibility and what he did or did not take, and cost him a few games. I don't think it would have changed none. I think the Bengals needed a quarterback, so I don't think, you know, that determined him being number 2 versus number 1. I think if the number 1 draft, the team that had number 1 pick was the team that needed a defensive player, he would have went number 1, and Burrows would have went whenever a quarterback was needed. But since Cincinnati has decided that they were ready to move on from the Andy Dalton project and needed really a quarterback or an opportunity to move in a different direction, you know, they got what they needed, and so that left the Washington football team with who they needed, and they got a great defensive player in Chase Young. Also, over the weekend, we had a trade, interesting trade. I kind of still scratching my head on this trade. Obviously, the Seattle Seahawks are all in on this trade. They decided that 2020 is the year, and you know, to be fair about it, they are the best team coming out of the NFC West. I don't care if the 49ers were just in the Super Bowl. The Seattle Seahawks are the better team. And the Seattle Seahawks will finish and win the division this year. They are just missing a few pieces. I don't think defensively adding Jamal Adams is the piece that's going to set you over the top and win a Super Bowl. But it didn't hurt your situation. What's interesting about this trade, though, is Jamal Adams wanted out of New York. Basically, he wants to be paid. He wants to have that big, lucrative contract. It's me. It's not about the team. It's not about let's work on it. It's me. And so, unhappy, voiced his opinion of not being happy. The Jets finally decide we're going to move him out. And so what happens? The Seattle Seahawks decide to give up Bradley McDougall and a 2021 first-round pick, a 2021 third-round pick, and a 2022 first-round pick in exchange for Adams and a 2022 fourth-rounder, which I don't understand that. You gave up. Why not took a lesser and kept your 2022 fourth round? Like, I don't understand how they figure these out. A 2021 first round, 2021 third round, and a 2022 first round. And Jets give up Adams in the 2022 fourth round. Like, I understand picks happen. I understand Brady was a sixth round. Rice was, 6th or 7th round pick. I understand that you can find the diamond in the rough. But you gave up a 2021 third round. So you just kept the third round and I gave up the fourth round in 2022 and call it even. Like, I don't, you're kind of grasping for straws and adding those pieces to it. I don't get that part. But Seattle gives up a 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, a player to get Adams and a fourth-round pick. And Adams has only got 1 more year on his contract. That's what I mean. They're all in. Like, that's the only way you can look at this trade and justify this trade is Seattle is all in. I'm sorry, but I don't know if I can give up 3 draft picks, 2 of them being first rounds, the next 2 first-round picks for a player that I might only have for 16 games, and that's it. That ultimately can find himself back in New York or somewhere else. And from the exiting of Earl Thomas, Seattle's done show that they're not going to play that money game. As Sherman left, Thomas left, Michael Bennett left. Like, they don't play the money game. Like, it took a while for Russell Wilson to get the money he's got. If you go to Seattle and think that you're going to play and you're going to, it's kind of like you're not going to Pittsburgh to get paid. You're going to Pittsburgh to win championships. As much as I hate Pittsburgh, when you go to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're going there to play for the opportunity to play with some of the all-time greats, to be part of that steel curtain, to be able to wave and swing around that terrible towel, an opportunity to know about every, 4 or 5 years, there's a good possibility you're going to be in the Super Bowl. You're not going to Pittsburgh to get a lucrative contract. You're not going to get max contracts. You're just not. You're going to play with a brotherhood, an opportunity to play with one of the most decorative organizations in the entire football league. That's why you're going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. As much as I don't like them, I got mad respect for it. Right now, Seattle's kind of in that boat. They don't got that history, and it's not the same. But you're not going to Seattle to get max contract. You're going to Seattle, especially right now with Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, and the players they have on that team. You're going there for an opportunity to go play in the Super Bowl. You know the odds are you're going to find yourself in the Super Bowl if you play there multiple years. You know that you have an opportunity to be on primetime TV and get your spotlight. You know that you have an opportunity to be part of something up there. not get a max contract. So this is going to be interesting to me, and it shows, one, that Seattle's all in. Look, we know that we possibly are going to get Jamal Adams for 1 year. A Jamal Adams that many experts really are not saying that he's going to change much for the Seattle Seahawks. Right now, they only expect 0.2 more wins. Like they were projecting to win 9.2 games. Now they're projected to win 9.4. And 5.1 percentage points to their chances of making the playoffs. They were at a 63.4% chance. Now they're 68.5. They're not even 70% chance to. I think, in my opinion, the odds are better. The wins might not change much. If the wins, that's got more to do with Russell Wilson. I don't think that's necessarily got to do with Jamal Adams or the defense. The defense has just been the defense at Seattle. So that's just kind of been the way of life there, especially the Legion of Boom and all that. So if their win increase happens, I think that's more because of the arm and the play of Russell Wilson and the pieces that was at offensively, not the defense. But you're still only projected to be 60%, 68%, whatever, chance of making the playoffs. I think it's better than that. I think the NFC West is theirs to lose. Arizona, you're still going through your changes. Yes, you did add DeAndre Hopkins. You still got a rookie quarterback that he's still trying to prove himself, and still got some things to learn. You got San Francisco that, unless offensively they can put up some points and learn how to be more reliant or more productive, let's go with that word, versus being so reliant on that defense, being a shutdown defense, I don't think that we're going to see the same things. That was just the fortune of the defense play the way they did. You can't expect and rely on the 49ers defense to play like that week after week, year after year. We watched the Baltimore Ravens do that in their Super Bowl win when that defense was one of the best defenses we had ever seen. But that was a 1 year. After that, the defense was good, but not good enough to help them win another Super Bowl. It took many years, and then it took them playing Colin Kaepernick, who the defense learned, and ultimately he was going to cause them the game, and he did with his interceptions and wasted timeouts and everything else is ultimately what it broke down to. But even the best of defenses, unless your offense learns to put up points, your defense is not going to week in, week out, year in, year out, be able to put yourself in positions to win the Super Bowl. But I think that they win the division. I think in the Rams, that's just a hot mess there. Not only have we got Todd Gurley no more, it looked good at first, but now the pieces are all going a different direction. They were all in, and it didn't happen. They were unable to put it all together. Now you got contracts coming up. Now you're going to have to start paying players. Now you got to pay your Jeff Goffs. Now you got to pay these rookies that you had on rookie contracts and went out and bought all these veteran players in hopes to win. And you don't have Fowler no more. You don't have Dominic Masu anymore. You don't have all these players, and so once again, you have that limited window to do this, and you don't do it in that window. You can't expect these players to play at that level week in, week out, year in and year out. Not unless it's a Bill Belichick system, but two, not unless you have a balanced attack. You can't be weak on one side of the ball or the other. Offense win games, defense win championships. You got to have both. You got to have your offense winning games and your defense winning championships. If you just got a championship defense, but offense is not going to win you games, you're not going to make it to the Super Bowl. And if you don't have championship winning defense, then you're depending on your offense to outscore your opponents, and you're not going to outscore everybody. It's just not going to happen. Just ask the Atlanta Falcons, who thought their 25-point lead or whatever, 21-point lead at halftime, whatever it was. They thought, 25 points, was it 28-3? Thought that was enough of shootout with the New England Patriots. We saw that ended. Lordy. But yes, we'll be keeping our eyes on Major League Baseball and see how these positive tests have played out. It's interesting. I'm still lost on this. I mean, ultimately, most of these people don't. The only reason they even know they're positive is because they're forced to use for the protocol, but they're not actually sick. But I mean, who decides to wake up in the morning and say, I'm gonna go get tested for the flu while I have no symptoms? You know, and you could have the flu, you don't know it, and you're not going to feel nothing from it, a result from it. I understand the people that go and get sick to go get tested, but because of these protocols and how now you're being overcautious, none of these reports say any of these players were sick. They just tested positive for COVID. And many things like Jimmy Johnson, and he got a false positive because the next two tests were negative, and he was back the next week. So we're going to watch this and see how this plays out, because I have a feeling that we're going to find out a lot of these players were either not sick, got a false positive, or there was a big overreaction is what I'm going to guess on this. But anyway, don't forget tomorrow night, Take It Back Tuesday. Get up in the studio, work on some site stuff, write some stuff, social media and all that stuff, and pick a show from the old days. And I put it on, listen to it in the studio, and replay it for you guys. We've gone back, 2017, 2 weeks ago, and last week was a 2018 show. So make sure you guys check that out. Take It Back Tuesday. Wednesday, I'll be back in the studio, 8 o'clock, right here at the Nation Sports Show. Izzo will be joining me at 8:30 to get you guys caught up on everything going on in the NHL. Then, of course, Thursday night, Race Chat Live with Chris and Craig. I'm assuming their guests that they're supposed to have last week will be on this week, waiting to get the details and find out more about that. So I'll let you guys know when I know. I should know by Wednesday night. Don't forget, you guys can follow us on Twitter at The 110 Nation. You can like us on Facebook, The 110 Nation Sports. Check out the site, www.the110nationsports.com. For all the latest going on here at The 110 Nation, I want to make sure that I thank Carolina Sports Plus, more than music. Without these great marketing partners, they wouldn't be able to do what we do or grow the way we grow. So I want to make sure that I thank them for all that they do and the support. Make sure that you guys follow us on Blog Talk Radio and follow us on Spreaker as we continue to grow our fan followership. There we go. It helps us continue to grow and help bring in more marketing partners, which will then help us continue to grow and upgrade. So make sure that you guys follow us on Blog Talk Radio, follow us on Spreaker. All it does is notify you when the shows are on. It does not do nothing else. It doesn't cost nothing. It doesn't anything else other than just notify you when we got shows, and it helps us continue to grow. Just like make sure you guys like us on Facebook. I know everybody's on Facebook and all this stuff, and so I know unless you partake in comments and everything else, eventually it doesn't show up on your feed. So like us and either comment and like stuff or don't. At least just help us continue to grow so more people have an opportunity to see us and get the opportunity to follow us and like us. And also make sure you guys check out the site, www.the110nationsports.com. Got a lot of great things going on over there, and as we continue that readership over there, and people check it out, that helps us continue to grow that as well. We got our plan made out, and we got things we want to accomplish here, and opportunities we want to provide, not only for ourselves, but those in the future, and hopefully be able to help be a place where people can make this a career. So check us out, www.the110nationsports.com. Tomorrow night, Take It Back Tuesday, 8 o'clock right here on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. Wednesday night, 110 Nation Sports Show. Izzo will be joining me. And then don't forget, Thursday night, 8 o'clock, Race Chat Live with Chris and Craig right here on the 110 Nation Sports Radio Network. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the 110 Nation Sports Show with Mr. C.J. Sports. You are a part of the 110 Nation, so be sure to visit the110nation.com for everything related to the show. You can follow CJ on Twitter at 110Nation and on Facebook at 110Nation Sports. Until next time.